And now, coming to you live from the City of Angels, Los Angeles, California, it's the Sheena Metal Experience with your host, Sheena Metal, only on KGRA Digital Broadcasting.
Hi! Welcome to the Sheena Metal Experience on KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network every Friday at 3 o'clock Pacific Time. I'm Sheena Metal. I'm a psychic medium. I'm an interfaith minister. I'm a 27-year talk radio host coming to you live every week from Los Angeles, California. And you know it's your first show when the lights die right as you're about to go on and you have no idea why, but they're back and I'm excited. This is the Sheena Metal Experience. This show is about humanity, spirituality, creativity, passion. It's about being your best you and inspiring others to do the same in this big, beautiful world. And it may be my show, friends, but you'll learn every week that it's always your experience. My guest today is such a dear friend of mine, and we kind of have a habit that when I do something new, she's always my first guest. She's a wonderfully talented author, speaker, ufologist, paranormal survivor, and if you know her, you know that her family was the subject of the iconic horror film, The Conjuring. She is my wonderful friend, Andrea Perron. Welcome to my first show, my friend. How are you? It's great to have you here. Can you hear me?
Back.
And we're back. You know what do they say?
Yeah.
They usually say, what, lousy rehearsal, great show. This was a fantastic rehearsal, and then everything died. Welcome, my friend. We have survived more than technical problems. How are you?
We have, and you know, between your energy and my energy, I think we should expect anything. Plus, I'm at my sister's house in Georgia. I haven't gone back to Florida yet after the holidays. I spent it here with my mom and my sisters in Georgia. Dad came up for about 6 days right over the holiday. But he's back down in the balmy heart of paradise. And I'm up here freezing. It's 28 degrees.
Wow.
And so because I'm at my sister's house, literally anything could happen.
Yes.
I mean, we could have live paranormal activity. We could have wild pack of dogs activity.
Yes.
That could happen as well. So, as long as people are prepared or even unprepared and ready for anything, that's fine with me.
I have closed the office door
so
the kitten won't visit, because the kitten likes to come in here and snuggle with me whenever he sees the camera on. But this morning we've had a bathroom emergency. So somebody was here fixing the bathroom and running a drill. Then the power went out. First a fuse went out, then the fuse came back, then the whole power went out. Then the power came back. Then it sounded like somebody was hitting the transformer with a sledgehammer for about 2 hours. That finally died just in time for our little rehearsal. And then the lights went out and then suddenly came back. And then you couldn't hear me. So here we are now. We've survived all acts of God and man. Now it's time to have a great show.
I know. I'll ask for some intervention from, if the galactic family, divine. I don't really care where it comes from.
Exactly.
I would really
bring it on.
Just like it to just come and let us do your opening broadcast. I'm so thrilled to have you join the KGRA family. It's a wonderful spot in cyberspace, a great network. And our mutual friend, Bill Forte, who just runs the whole works, is a delight, an absolute delight. I don't even think of what I do with Bill as work. It's not work. I mean, we're just a couple of friends figuring out the glitches and working out the tech and transferring files and, doing stuff like that. And that's in between our long extended conversations about everything else, so it's great for me. I really appreciate being a part of it. And you belong here. You do, because what you contribute to the paranormal field in general is it's so significant.
Thank you.
And you've been at this for so many years, decades, really.
Yeah, my whole
You're
life.
coming up on your third decade of doing this.
Yeah.
And, you know, I want it just to be said publicly here and now that a great deal of what I've learned about being a presence on the radio, on a video, on broadcasts like this, I learned from you. You know, you've just been a guiding force in my life for all the years that we've known each other. There's never anything I can't just ask you and get an immediate, open, honest response or a critique or whatever. It's just there. It's a given. And it is because of your giving nature that I so appreciate. Where'd she go?
I think we lost her. It looks like, I mean, here she's coming back now, but it looks like she's having issues over there where she's living with the power and everything else.
Hi.
But the show goes on, so maybe
the show goes on. That's you know what?
We will work out all the glitches over time. We went through the same thing. We did. Bill and I went through the same thing with Tony. Oh my God. Hold on. The dogs have to go out. Talk amongst yourselves.
I have nothing but
right
faith
here.
in you, my friend. Absolutely nothing.
Let them out and back in. I don't know what this
That's
is
what
about.
they get for having tiny bladders.
I know.
So welcome to the
All
show.
right,
I'm
guys.
so excited to be here. And I have learned that when every technical thing goes wrong on the first show, it just means it's going to be a great show and you get it all out of the way on the first show. That's why I have Andrea on the first show. Then if everything goes to heck, she's here and I don't have to worry about somebody saying, I'll never do your show again with those technical problems. It's wonderful to be here. And Andrea was saying that this is like 30 years in radio almost. And it's true, 28 in August. But I grew up in a creepily haunted house. So I kind of feel like I've been in this world my entire life. And even before I admitted to being a psychic medium, even before my mother admitted to being a psychic medium, the paranormal seemed to follow us everywhere. So it's wonderful to be able to be an active and supportive part of this community to help other folks, as you do, Andrea, every day, that are maybe living in haunted houses now and have no idea what's going on or why it has disrupted their lives. And that's one of the things I love so much about you, my friend, is that you'll stop and take that minute at a convention, even if you're exhausted, to hug somebody that needs to be hugged because they're scared of where they live. No one should ever have to be scared of where they live. I know I said this to you on one of my radio shows recently, but I was watching that Discovery Channel documentary about the Amityville house, the shock docs about the Amityville house. And they were talking about how Lorraine Warren had made a call once to the Lutzes and said, nobody should have to be afraid of where they live. Like, you're supposed to be allowed to have peace in your home. And I thought that was such a beautiful quote, because when you are living in a paranormally active place, if it's negative activity, you don't have peace in your own home. And I don't think until someone has lived like that, it's one thing if like where you work is haunted, I mean, that's inconvenient, or, every year I go to this place for a vacation once a week and it's haunted, or the hotel room was haunted. I mean, all that is an inconvenience. But to actually live in a place where you have nowhere to go to find respite from the paranormal activity, it's a scary way to live, and it's terrifying for people. And people that are now going through it are lucky that there are at least people to talk to about it. When we went through it, there was maybe you called a priest, like there was no one to talk to about it. So I just think it's so wonderful that you'll take that time to be kind to people or give them a hug or give them whatever they need when they're in crisis, and I want to thank you for that.
Well, it actually is a very natural outreach that occurs. And I don't feel, there are no experts in the paranormal. I mean, if my family doesn't qualify, then there just isn't anybody that would qualify as an expert in this field. And so I feel like, sometimes people ask me, to help them through dilemmas, and I don't have a proper answer for them. All that I can do is offer them some comfort, some solace, to tell them that, they will get through it, that they're stronger than anything that's on the other side, literally anything, because they're here and they're earthbound and they're in 3D. And so they're kind of master or mistress of their domain, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I feel powerless to affect any positive change because, first of all, I haven't been to their place of residence. I haven't experienced what they've experienced. I can only base it on my own personal experiences, and what they're going through might be something entirely different. Obviously, different characters, different personalities, different spirits than what I grew up with, who I grew up with. And so, I don't feel like I have all that much to offer per se, other than human compassion and decency, to have the decency to pause for a moment or two or three and listen to someone's story and let them know that I legitimately care about their suffering or their confusion or their fear. And try to just talk them down off a ledge. I mean, if we could get through what we got through, I really do think most people can get through pretty much anything.
I agree. I agree. And a lot of it's just finding someone to listen to it. And I find that in my spiritual practice, do I do predictive readings? Do I tell people where their jewelry is? Well, sure. But most of my practice is listening. It's people who are in crisis and they're unsure about something in their life, whether it's a spiritual issue, an emotional issue, or a physiological issue, and they don't know where to turn, and they just need someone to tell them, you're not going crazy, and everything's going to be okay. And I think it's the same thing when I speak with paranormal survivors. The first thing people want to know is, am I crazy? And just having somebody say, I've lived through this, and you're not crazy, I mean, that's 75% of the battle right there. And I'm listening, and I see you. And I know we talked about this a little bit when I did a little episode of an upcoming show that you have coming out, which I'm very excited about. But there is a correlation between people who have survived childhood abuse, traumatic event abuse, and been survived disasters or plane crashes, and people who are paranormal survivors. Paranormal survivors don't really get to be included in that group right now. But I believe someday they really will, because it is a type of PTSD, right? It is something that you go through and have to deal with and have to figure out what it was. And it puts your family in crisis often, and you have to heal as a family from that. And so I just say, for people who are paranormal survivors, I see you, Andrea sees you, and we're here for you. And I think that's all people need to know sometimes, right?
Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's just enough balm for the soul, or for the spirit. I think that there are, obviously, I think the most powerful words are "I love you," but right on that phrase's heels is the phrase "I believe you."
Yes.
And you can tell when somebody's being, genuine and authentic, or if they're being in any way fraudulent, because if you're an empath or you're a psychic, or you have some of those abilities, if somebody don't you find that most people that want to pull the wool over your eyes don't even bother to try because they know better implicitly? I've only had a couple of times in the last dozen years that someone has approached me with a story that turned out not to be real, turned out to be a figment of their imagination, or a manifestation of their own personal neediness. And I don't even get angry about that. I feel sorry for them, that they were so desperate for attention that they would seek me out. And I am vulnerable to that because I'm very gullible. I believe everybody, right? I hear a word, it's like, of course you're telling me the truth. Right. Of course you're being forthright and honest, I mean, I just that's an assumption I make. And for the most part, I'm spot on. And occasionally I will get duped, and it's just how it is. It's just part of the stream of things. And I feel pity for someone that wants to seek me out as some kind of celebrity and run a story past me that they made up in their own mind just to see if they can get some kind of, outreach or connection with me. That makes me sad, you know, because there are billions of people in this world and people that we can connect with on a very open, honest, loving, and forthright way. I wouldn't care if somebody walked up to me and said, you know what? I've never had a paranormal experience, but I'm so fascinated by this. And could you just talk to me for a couple of minutes? Because I didn't used to believe in this. And now I sort of kind of do, I would be perfectly fine with that.
Yes, yeah, and so would I. Absolutely. Yes, and absolutely so would I. It's I think that everybody wants to be a celebrity now, right? And I think the internet, for all the things that is wonderful about the internet, one of the things that's a little scary about the internet is it's giving everybody more of a lust for that 15 minutes of fame. And I think people have learned through all of the many radio and television and print programs about the paranormal and the spiritual world that one way that you can become famous is to claim that you live in a haunted house or have a haunted thing, but I find that the folks that fake it, and I too, like you, send love to them. Oftentimes it's the story is so outlandish, right? Like there's a griffin drinking a martini in my above ground pool. It's always so out there.
Yeah,
that it's too overblown. So you usually can tell after a while.
No, I'm a sucker. I get sucked into everybody's everything. I do. Well, nobody ever came at me with a griffin or a unicorn. So, that said on my behalf, that I didn't fall right over into the rabbit hole. But no, I don't know what my problem is. But I'd rather live. Hold on, we got a question, Sam. No, I have not. Pasulka, I don't know. We have a question from Sam. Have I ever spoken with Diana
Pasulka?
No, I don't know her.
Who she is. Sam, I'm so sorry.
Yep, I'm sorry. I don't know her, honey. I hope to. I'm sure she's a fascinating person, but
tell her to find us. We want to know all about the griffin in her above ground pool.
Yes.
And what kind of martini.
Yes. And is the unicorn painted in rainbow colors? I need to know.
I always use the griffin example because I remember the first time I heard the word cryptozoology. Mm-hmm. And I asked somebody what it was, and my friend said, "Oh, those are like the people you call and say there's a griffin in my backyard." So now I always refer to that about the griffin. And I thought that was the funniest example of what would be in your yard. Yeah. And you would call and say, could you come investigate? There's a griffin in my backyard. So, yeah.
I have fuzzy unicorns on my feet, but they're slippers.
Okay.
They're my unicorn slippers.
Yeah, I think that my cat might be a fairy. And you can't prove he's not. So as far as I'm concerned, he might be.
If you can't prove he's not.
Yes.
Does he have wings? Because, in my experience, fairies do have wings.
By the way he flies, you would think he did. But it
could be gossamer wings, which can sometimes be invisible.
And maybe when I get a little more comfortable here, he'll come and make appearances during the show. Because he would love to stick his little nose right up in the camera and kiss it. Something I wanted to talk about today, and you and I talked about this a couple of months ago when you were doing one of my radio shows. I do a couple of shows for iHeartRadio every week. I remember you telling me a story about an event that you went to and folks being maybe not so polite and courteous as they should have been. And you were talking about how, because of how you grew up, obviously, and what happened when you lived in the farmhouse, that you're very sensitive to anybody saying anything about how the house affected your mom. And you and I are both, huge mama's girls. So I understand that. when I lived in the house, we didn't tell anybody because my mom was a Scorpio, so she locked that down, didn't tell a soul. She said, "I'm not telling anybody, and you don't tell anybody." So that wasn't really a problem for us. But I see in so many of the cases that I either read about, watch, or folks that I know, it seems like the general consensus in our country anyway, and I'll use our country as the excuse because I've never lived in another country. The example, I've never lived in another country. It's always sort of like this outpouring of sympathy for the dad, right? And
Yeah.
this sort of distrust of the mom, like, well, maybe she's just hysterical and a little crazy.
Too many hormones. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I know.
Too many hormones made you see the evil spirit.
Right.
So I think that, and this is a thing that we deal with, right, as women in our country and in our
Yes.
world all the time, right? That if a man says something, it's wonderful, and if a woman says something, well, what's up with that crazy
Automatically
bitch?
suspect.
Right,
Yep.
and it's odd that it carries over into the paranormal world as well. But again, watching that documentary on the Amityville house, I learned a lot of things I didn't even know about that story. And that was one of them, that people sort of felt this outpouring of sympathy for George Lutz, but sort of this, well, I don't know what Kathy Lutz's problem is, but she's probably lying. And I think that it's such a shame that we do that, because I think people don't realize a couple of things. One is, and it's not always the case, but because of the way that I think women are bred to connect more to their emotions. And also because women are the protector, the mama lion of a family, the protector of the children, the carrier of the children.
Intuitive, eyes
Right.
back in the back of the head. Yep.
I would say more often than not in a two-parent, two-gender, two-parent family, the spirit attacks the mom a lot. And a lot of times I think it's because a lot of these dads don't believe. And because they're not believing somehow, they're not buying into it, they're not getting affected as much. Because I think spirits like attention, right? They want someone who's going to pay attention to them. And if somebody doesn't believe in them, then they're not getting the attention that they want. So sometimes it's the moms who are trying to protect their kids and are believing and realizing what's going on and paying attention to it, that are really getting beat up in these situations. And I think it's so important that we not discard what women and moms and kids are saying about what's going on in haunted houses, because it's their, people are getting attacked and we need to believe them. Don't make fun of someone's story if you don't know. I mean, believe them. We've become this society where no matter what it's about, right? A crime thing, a supernatural thing, a celebrity thing, we're kind of always like, well, I don't know. She's probably crazy. And I think we need to stop that and become more open-hearted, because when people are telling you a difficult thing from their life, that is a difficult thing. And be sympathetic and be empathetic. And even if it's not something you can relate to, or it's not even something you believe in, try.
Oh, we lost her again, Bill. While she's coming back, which I know she will, because it is her show. Here we go. She's back. Okay.
What can I live so close to the ocean. When you're hanging off the end of the continent, maybe crazy things just happen. But even if it's not something that you necessarily believe in, try to extend some empathy to another human being. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I've had as many men as women come to me and talk to me about their experiences. I would say it's a good 50-50 in terms of that. I find men to be, I find the whole misogyny thing in the paranormal to be less acute than it is in society as in general.
I agree.
Even though it still exists and persists, it's waning considerably over time.
Sure.
I'm a big advocate for women doing the work in the field, many of whom do the footwork, they've got their marching orders. They're the foot soldiers. They're out there doing this investigation and this work and their intuitive work and their spiritual work and their work. And they never get acknowledged and they never get they're certainly not invited in to do their own shows and stuff like that. And so I've attained a certain level of notoriety and, dare I say, celebrity in this field, which feels bizarre to me because I'm not a celebrity and I never will be.
Kind of are.
Annie.
Kind of are, Annie.
No, I'm really, I don't feel it. I'm just, believe me, if you had seen what I looked like 15 minutes before I connected with you, with the COVID hair everywhere and no pretty earrings and the makeup and
me, my friend, I understand. Yes.
I'm just Annie, and I'm just at home with my sister. Thank you for letting the dogs back in. Oh, that's okay. Did you get them both?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just cutting through.
Okay, that's all right. It's incumbent upon me to promote the work of the women that I have encountered who've impressed me with whether it be their prowess as a practitioner, whether it be, their gifts and abilities as yourself, a spirit medium, a psychic. I don't claim to have any of those powers. I think I'm a little bit of everything all mixed into one thing. But because there's a movie attached to my name, I get artificially elevated to a position that is based on a fictionalized film. What I'm impressed with is when somebody's read my books and go, wow, this bears no resemblance to the film. And wow, your family went through this. And oh my God. And then, they're seriously interested and seriously want to talk and seriously want to share some of their experiences. But, I've had as many men approach me and tell me that they were afraid to talk about what they saw, what they felt, what they experienced.
Sure.
As women, and more afraid. Men are more afraid to share it. I think you're spot on in your assessment of that, because they don't want to be perceived as somehow weak or vulnerable or susceptible or, perhaps unstable.
Sure.
That's and what a shame, look at our mutual friendship coffee. The man is so supremely gifted.
Yes.
And he waited until he was well into his 4th decade of life before he ever even admitted to himself that he had these gifts, before he even blossomed into what he is now, because he had to process it. He had to come to terms with it, and he had to determine, and I don't mean to put words into his mouth, we know each other long enough now and are such good friends that I feel that I can speak to this using him as an example. But he had to come to terms with his own psychological approach and perspective about this and how he would be perceived as a man in the world, whereas a woman who's coming into the world presenting these gifts and sharing them seems in general to be much more at ease with it, much more peaceful about it. It's like, oh God, all right, I suppose I need to use this. I suppose, what is this? I guess I have to use it and share it and communicate about it. And so it's really a different trajectory that I think that men and women take. But I have had men in their 60s and 70s weeping in my arms because I said to them, I believe you. It's going to be okay. Just relax and breathe and take it in and know you got all the way to this age, having had these experiences as a youngster. And look how strong and enlightened it has made you. And they will just fall apart in my arms. And that speaks to what they have withheld for so long and suppressed emotionally for so long, that a gentle kiss on the cheek and I believe you whispered in their ears opens the floodgates
I agree.
Breaks down the dam. And I can't think of anything that is more healing, more loving, and more giving than to give someone permission to emote about something that they've been afraid to share lifelong.
I agree. I agree. And you talk about Chip in his 40s. I was in my 40s before I
Mm-hmm.
realized that what I had were gifts. And my mother was in her 50s when she came out and started talking about it. She was probably knew at an earlier age than I did. I mean, I knew that I was intuitive, but I didn't really know. And because she was such an amazing psychic medium, I thought, well, I'm never going to be that good. Um, I would say, and then you know me because we're very dear friends. I've come out of a lot of closets in my life. That one was the hardest. It was the hardest for me to tell people that I had gifts, and I put it off and put it off and put it off until finally, other psychic friends of mine that were doing my radio shows literally dragged me out on the air because I it was just something that I just felt like the minute I told people, my life would change forever. And
And
it
it
really
did.
wasn't, it did in the best possible way,
Yeah.
but I didn't lose anything from my life. Nobody in my entertainment life said, oh, what? And it's interesting because this show, as I've designed it, right, and this is my very first show, is really going to be where my entertainment world and my spiritual world kind of come together and lace together. There'll be friends on the show from both walks of life, and we'll be talking about the same things no matter where we start.
Yeah.
So this is the first time that probably some of my entertainment friends will come on the show and learn some things about me they didn't know. And maybe some of my spiritual paranormal friends will come on the show and learn some things about me they didn't know. But I mean, I tell this story all the time. I thought that Hollywood would ride me out of the business on a rail when I started talking about being a psychic. And it was not like that. Everybody has been wonderfully embracing. And if they haven't been, they've been nice enough to be quiet about it. So I don't know. But it's really the best thing that ever happened to me. And I would like to say it's what I should have done with my life from the beginning, except that I don't believe that there are any accidents. And I believe that everything that I did and brought to the world and went through in my life, I did for a reason so that I could be right where I am today.
Well, yeah, because really, you know, in this place we call Soul School, it's all about, you know, preparation. And we have to learn our lessons painfully because in Soul School, as we've discussed many times, the test always precedes the lesson.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing fair about it. Hi, Peanut Buttercup. You know, the way that I look at this, Sheena, it's all a learning experience for all of us all the time. School is never out of session.
Yes,
not even in our dream state. You know, we're always learning, absorbing, purging, processing, cleansing, healing, working toward a unified, well-defined goal, which is to get from one day to the next in the course of our existence and hopefully not have any, you know, major tragedies befall us, you know, have good friendships, a loving family. You know, we all basically want the same thing.
Absolutely.
You know, so I think that, you know, people that are troubled or people that are connected with spirit in ways that they can't quite comprehend, or, you know, they don't understand if it's, you know, their great Aunt Lydia trying to check in on them, or if it's something, you know, perhaps dastardly and sinister or nefarious in intent, or, you know, for the vast amount of experiences that people have with spirit, most of them are not that. You know, not negative. And I give thanks for the existence of spirit. I mean, imagine if spirit existed the way that I know that it does.
Sure.
And yet they never, ever, ever made their presence known to us on this field of action. And we all lived our whole lives from beginning to end, never having any kind of a paranormal or supernatural or spiritual encounter of any kind. and go to our end of life wondering, not knowing whether or not there's any kind of, I don't know what it is exactly, but I know there's something
Sure,
after this
absolutely.
life. There's
Yeah.
something beyond our mortal existence. I still can't tell you at 63. I cannot tell you what it is, but
Right.
it is. But imagine if they existed and yet there was never any cross. There was never any connection between this realm and the next. You know, I don't believe in the veil that gets discussed. Your mother didn't even have this vernacular to work with. Your mother didn't have a paranormal vernacular to work with,
Right.
you know, when she first discovered what her gifts were.
Sure,
I mean, what the
right.
hell did she even call it? You know,
I don't think she knew. I think she just thought there was something really wrong with her.
or
And she was
weird.
just trying to
Yeah.
stay out of an institution. I mean, to tell
Yeah.
you the truth, that's the honest truth.
Yes,
And
I
then
believe that. I
when
do.
when she was in her mid-20s, she had kind of a traumatic thing happen, and she was in a hospital and very unhappy. And a night nurse at the hospital would sit on the end of her bed and started talking to her about Edgar Cayce.
Mhm.
And that was kind of her introduction to metaphysics. And everything kind of started to make sense. But still, she didn't tell a soul she had gifts until I was in college in the late 80s. So, you know, it took a long time. And even then, in the beginning, it was very don't tell anybody until she realized that there was a community here in Southern California and she didn't need to be so concerned about it anymore. But it terrified her because
Sure.
when you were of her age, right? She was born during the Depression. If you started talking about seeing spirits, somebody put you in a mental hospital. I mean, that's just how it was.
And maybe leave you there.
And maybe leave you there, right?
Yeah.
And I have a friend who's my age that grew up in the South, and she told her parents she saw spirits when she was little, and they did. They committed her for the better part of a year. So you had to be very, very. In some places, you still have to be very, very careful about it.
Yes.
I'm still careful of the way I approach it when I speak to certain people. I mean, I live, you know, I have a place in Los Angeles County, but I grew up in Orange County, the county south of LA County. It's extremely conservative. And even here, sometimes as people start talking about what I do, I say I'm a spiritual counselor and a minister. I mean, I am a minister, so that's true. I am pastored at church, so that's true. So I just sort of make them think like I'm a minister counselor because I know they can't handle it. And my mama had this expression, not everybody needs to know everything about you.
Yes,
and I
that's
think
true.
when you're doing your spirit work, right, and I consider my spirit work my ministry and your spirit work and your ministry, the goal is to reach and move the most people. So you have to sort of meet people at the level that they can handle and understand. And
Yes.
if that level of understanding is they think that you're a spiritual counselor, great. If they want to think that you're a psychic, great. If they want to call it intuitive, great. If they want to call it empath, great. If they want to say the word medium, great. It's kind of like God, right? God doesn't care if you call them God, spirit, great spirit, goddess, higher power, universe. It doesn't
Prime
matter.
creator. Yep.
It's right. It's all the same thing to God. And they have literally given me the message of you can call us whatever you want. We don't care.
Yep.
So we don't care if you refer to us as he, she, or them. We don't care. Singular, plural, however you feel like dealing with it.
Yep.
Binary, non-binary, we answer to everything. And I think it's sort of the same with me as a light worker, that I just kind of answer to everything. Whatever makes people feel comfortable, that's what makes me feel comfortable. Because I am here to move people and to help them and to be a guiding force for them. And I don't need to get all hung up on names and labels. My mom was very much the same way. Most people shouldn't even tell. People just thought she was a great therapist. They would come to her for questions. She'd give them answers. They didn't know why, and she didn't push the issue.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of being a person of service, you know?
Yeah. And there's no need to identify according to a pad full of Post-it notes with labels.
Yeah, it's not necessary.
They don't really serve any purpose. They don't. I mean, all you need to do is connect and interact with others in a meaningful way. It
Yeah.
doesn't need to be compartmentalized. It doesn't, but one of the things that um, I'm most that I most cherish about you, having seen you over all these years, um, giving the way that you do of yourself,
Thank you.
is your ability, your bottomless pit, your endless well of resources that you can tap into, no matter on with you, that can be put aside momentarily to come to the aid of another. Um, and I hope she can hear me, because I really want her to know how much I admire her work. It's important, I mean, really, ultimately, being in service to each other
Yeah,
ultimately is the greatest the greatest contribution that we can make
I
to a
agree.
planet that is in need of healing.
Yes.
You know, we're riddled with uh, so much that is so overwhelming all of the time, and the input of the stimuli is completely overwhelming, especially with 5,000 different ways to be on social media, and we're
And growing every
isolated.
day.
As much as we're connected, we're completely isolated,
Yes.
especially in the midst of COVID. And I've seen a lot of things rise to the surface in the last couple of years that are elements of our humanity that are in need of healing. I think one of the things that, and as you and I have discussed before, um, on raising the vibration, um, that which is a wonderful, wonderful show. I would encourage
Thank you.
anyone who's watching to please go back into the archives and just start picking shows that you would love, because
Thank you.
it really is all about raising the vibration of the planet, especially in these very dark times. But what I have seen rise to the surface is twofold. I think that part of the reason that all of this paradigm shift is occurring is to reconnect us with our innate empathy, our ability to put ourselves in the shoes of another, in the situation of another, to start caring as much about our fellow human being as we care about ourselves. It's been very challenging. There are, a multitude of examples of people that have, for lack of a better word, awakened during COVID-19, have
Oh,
spent
of
enough
course.
time in, retrospective, in reflection,
Sure.
the pause that refreshes, that makes us, perhaps consider things differently, to look at the world in a different way, to see. I mean, when you're living in steeped in the irony of not being able to be with the people that you love the most because you might be carrying something that could kill them, that's a wake-up call.
Yeah.
That is. And for, the vast majority of thinking, feeling human beings, we have all at once had to confront with a novel coronavirus, which no one has any immunity to. We've all had to confront our mortality in a way that perhaps we did not before. We have a common threat. We have a common enemy.
Right.
Um,
It's interesting.
and
Yes, and I talk about this all the time during my spiritual services that I do monthly. Um, for the first time in a very long time,
yeah,
everybody on the earth is going through the same thing at the
at the
same
same
time.
time,
Even World War II and World War
yeah.
One,
It
there
was
were
different.
parts of there were parts of the world that were not affected by it.
Right,
But there
exactly.
is no part of the world not
That's
affected
not
by
affected
this.
by this,
And it
especially.
continues to rage. As a matter of fact, tomorrow, for the first time in 2.5 years and more, I'll be doing my spiritual service from here, from home, because there are so many people in my church sick with COVID that there's no one to engineer and run the show.
Yeah. There you go.
So that's terrifying to me.
Yeah.
And these are people that are fully vaccinated. I mean, it's just, it is mutating along. It's jumping faster than we can keep up with it.
Yeah.
And if that is not a lesson in how precious everything is, how precious every single thing on the earth is, your life, the life of your loved ones, the gentle makeup of the planet. I mean, there is everything in the world is affected by everything we do every day. And we have all this time now to be at home, right? We should be social distancing at home, folks. We have all this time at home to think about what we want to make better in our lives, how we want to become, as I said at the beginning of the show, our best us, and how that plays into how we can inspire other people to do the same and make this a more beautiful, more lovely world than it's ever been before.
Yeah.
Why are we not doing that? We have every incentive to do that now.
Well, I think that we are doing that. I just don't think
agree.
that we're doing it en masse.
Right.
And I think that we will get there.
Yes.
I have to believe that we will get there.
I agree.
I really do. I have to, or I just wouldn't even want to be here anymore. And really,
well, half the time, Annie, you don't want to be here anymore anyhow. So
there are times, yes, there are. But I do feel like, okay, so this is bad. So this is bad. Hold on just a second.
Okay. That's not bad. I love the sound of dogs barking. And I think mine and the cat are probably doing it right outside the door. I just have the door closed. Usually when I do these, I keep the door open.
Come on, you
every
dog.
furry creature comes in.
I know, I'm in the middle of an interview.
Oh my God. The whole dog parade.
Come on.
Thank you, love. Thank you.
So far, we've had a light thing, a power thing, an internet thing. Now we've got a dog parade. That's how a first show is, my friends. Mary asked about what's behind me. How do I move? It's a lotus pattern. Isn't it beautiful? We hung it up last night. We built this little studio. I built this chair last night. My girlfriend has a beautiful daughter whom I love as my own. And she gave it to us as a Mother's Day present. It's actually double-sided. So this is the purple side for me. The other side is blue palm trees because my girlfriend's all about blue and the beach. So it was kind of like a beautiful double-sided gift, but I love it. I have to find something to hang on this side, and then my life will be complete forever. So thank you, Mary, for asking about that, and welcome.
Okay, well, that was the pharmacy delivering meds for my mother. And that's what goes on when you're actually doing interviews from home and real home with real activity and real animals and people and unexpected guests at the door.
Right.
But so it's good. It's all good. Sorry, I didn't mean to
not at all.
Anything, but
not at all. It's all beautiful, my friend. I just think that this is the time. I'm telling people, get inspired. Now is the time to take this time we have to ourselves and figure out what you want the rest of your life to look like. What
4
do you want to do with your
people
life?
In this country last month walked away from their jobs. I said, I don't want to do this with my life anymore. They've reassessed their lives and continue to reassess their lives throughout, what we've been through over the last 2+ years. And are saying, you know what? Life is precious. Life is short. We've seen how short it can be. I want to be happy. I'm going to go do what will make me happy. That's a very important, I think, quantum leap in terms of consciousness raising. And what you do with raising the vibration is an uplifting process. It's like medicine on a screen. It's like
thank you
having someplace where you can go to where you get this infusion of positivity and light and unconditional love and a spirit of unity. Like, we're all in this together. We can do this, that it might be the only time all week long that you hear such beautiful, meaningful, and truly uplifting language and
Thank you, my friend.
words, and it like flowing from you like music.
Thank you.
And you're a cornucopia and an orchestral composition all wrapped up into one human being. And that's what you bring to the world. And I emulate that. You know, I mean, I do. I want to be as good at what I do as you are with what you do.
Thank you,
So
my
that
friend.
we can each incrementally, one person at a time, change the world and make it a better place than it was the moment we were born into it. I don't think that's too lofty a goal.
I don't
because
either.
have seen the difference one individual can make in the world and how many lives that one individual can touch.
I
For
agree.
better or worse.
Wholeheartedly, my friend. Amen. And I love and adore you. If anybody wants to check out my nonprofit Peace, Love, Kindness, Unity movement that I founded to carry on my mama's teachings, both humane and spiritual, raisingthevibration.org. And everything about me can be found at sheenametalspiritual.com. Sweetie, tell me a little bit about your show that's coming up later tonight. And,
Okay.
what people can find out about your show here on the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network.
We do a World Awakening every Friday night from 9 to 11 Eastern Time. Tonight, I'm on with the phenomenal Deb DeRoos, who you know well.
I do.
We're all friends.
She's
We're
been a
all
guest
like
on my
a
radio
pile of
show,
girlfriends.
Sure. Yes.
Yep. And everybody can find me. I'm revamping my website, so don't even bother. But I'm all over Facebook. I'm everywhere, omnipresent. Like spirit.
You'll feel better when that website is overhauled. That's what I did with my COVID time. I built a website, and it sure is nice not to have to say, "Oh, my website's kind of." Yeah. That's what I did with. I'm very happy. I should have written a book, but I did that instead.
That's good.
My friend, thank you for being here. You know that I love and adore you, and I would do anything for you. Parting words, something you'd like really quick the world to know about. A little bit of inspiration for folks.
Dare to have faith. Dare to have faith in the future. Dare. In spite of all appearances to the contrary, dare to have faith in the future. Make it so. Be the beacon. Be the light you seek.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, my friend. The wonderful Andrea Perron, everybody. I love you, my friend. Thank you for being here.
Love you.
It's the Sheena Metal Experience. Thank you for being a part of my first show. We're going to be here every Friday at 3 o'clock Pacific time on KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. Please find me on social media at Sheena Metal everywhere. That's Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And my website, sheenametalspiritual.com. Remember, every week on this show, I hope you laugh. I hope you learn something. I hope you feel inspired, and I hope you want to go and make the world a better place. It is my show, that is for sure, but it's always, without a doubt, my friends, your experience. I love you all, and I'll see you next week. Thank you to Andrea. Thank you to KGRA. Thanks, Bill, and I'll see you guys next time.